What's up guys, Seth here, back with another video on Marvel Contest of Champions, and today I'm going to be going over the Block 2 and 3 of the SAGA Showcase Tower. Now, a bit of an annoying thing in making this video is when you finish the SAGA Showcase Tower, you can't go back into it to look at the fights. So unlike with the other class towers and stuff where you can go back to previous blocks and check out what you did previously, it was like that when you're in the SAGA Tower if you haven't finished it yet, but as soon as you finish Room 3, it blocks you out. So it's a bit of an annoying thing in making this video, so I'm gonna have to improvise a little bit, but I wanna go through the fights, show you who I used, give you a brief overview of the fights, and just have it as a bit of a showcase of how mine went. Because honestly, these last two blocks, bit of an easy peasy fight. Block 1 was honestly more annoying just because of how restrictive it was with the champions. So Block 2 and 3 were a lot more straightforward and a lot less fights as well. So it ended up being a fair bit easier. I will preface in Block 2 and 3, the defenders also gain all of the masteries as well. So it means that they get max ranks of, like deep wounds and cruelty and precision and everything for the offensive masteries, and then they also gain like willpower and parry and salve as the defensive masteries. So you got to kind of be careful of that. It's not going to be anything too substantial, obviously. Like willpower isn't like crazy regeneration that you need a heal block for, but it's just something to keep in mind. And if you get clipped by a bleed champion, the deep wounds is going to do a whole lot more damage as well. The only other thing to keep in mind is parry. So if you're a bit sloppy with your intercepts, then you might get caught by that, but the defender isn't trained around parry or like trying to take advantage of that, so it shouldn't be too bad for you. It's just in the off chance that they do accidentally block at the right time, then they're going to parry you, but as long as you play around that and play smart, you're going to be fine too. But anyway, let's go through and I'll show you who I used and how it went. Now, the first champion that you're going to be going up against in Block 2 is Chee'ilth. So Chee'ilth is fairly straightforward as a defender. Her special attacks are fairly easy to avoid. The main thing in Chee'ilth's kit that you want to kind of look out for is her bleeds. So as a defender, her personal debuffs can be inflicted through the block, which means that you're going to bleed if you bring in a champion that is not bleed immune. And then on the nodes as well, there is also a damage reflect node. So if you throw a special attack against Chee'ilth, she's basically going to gain a damage reflect node, and that's where you're going to basically take damage back when you're hitting her. So you kind of want to avoid that as well. So what I did for this fight, I went with Gentle. With Gentle, he's got a fairly high damage without using special attacks, so I figured he'd be kind of good for that without having to use special attacks, and as well as also bleed immune. So it means that I pretty much just stayed with him with no special attacks used, just hitting into Chee'ilth, avoiding her special attacks, and the fight went really, really easily. Outside of that node about the damage reflect, if you're not using special attacks, there really isn't much to look out for with Chee'ilth. It's fairly straightforward outside of that, and after a few combos and some playing around with Gentle and ramping him up a little bit, it really wasn't that difficult. I think a Gentle, even at a lower rank, would be fine to do in this fight as well. There's a fair bit of ramp potential in this. You've got the 5 minutes, so you can take your time with the fight. It's not a stress of getting it done in a minute like it is with other class towers. So overall, pretty straightforward. Chee'ilth went down. Not really any issues. Now, the second fight you're going to be going up against in Block 2 is against Hyperion. Hyperion as a defender pretty much is just the power gain is the issue. Outside of that, he's fairly straightforward as well. The main thing you want to look out for in this fight is that the special 3 is activated on the node. So Hyperion is going to be able to get to a special 3. He's going to be able to use that and smash you because he's going to be doing a lot of damage once he ramps up with his special 3 too, with these buffs that he gets, cosmic charges that he gets. So his special 3 damage does ramp up quite a bit if he does have those cosmic charges. So the idea is keep his power low or have a way to manage the buffs. Because on the node as well, he's also going to gain these supercharge abilities, which is basically just going to make his power gain more potent and better. So you kind of want a champion that can play around that. Now for this fight, I use White Tiger. White Tiger does have some power steal abilities. She's got a little bit of power control, but the main thing I brought in White Tiger for is just damage. And this fight with White Tiger at Ascension 2 was easy peasy lemon squeezy. This fight, I think it was like a 30-second fight. Hyperion really didn't have a chance in this fight. I think once you get him against the wall with White Tiger and you're using your special attacks regularly, the power steal isn't anything substantial, but it's enough to keep him below 3 bars. And the damage ramps up so quickly with White Tiger, so he really didn't stand much of a chance. So White Tiger, great option for him. Outside of that, any kind of mystic power control champion, you're gonna have a good time. Now the third fight in Block 2 is you're going up against the Overseer. Now Overseer is a fairly straightforward defender as well. The only thing you really got to look out for is his auto block abilities, which he triggers after his special attacks too, because on these nodes they also have parry, so you will be able to get parried by that too, so you've got to be careful of that. But outside of that, the only thing you really want to bring into this fight is some sort of debuff purify or something like that, because you are going to get debuffs placed on you. I didn't bring in a debuff purifying champion. I brought in Spider-Man, and he did very, very fine in this fight. Outside of the debuff purifying, there's not really much to deal with in this fight. It's just kind of a standard Overseer fight. Any kind of champion that you can manage Overseer with, or at least like a high damage champion, so that in between the auto blocks you're getting getting in a decent bit of damage as well is going to be going fine for you too. Other options I've seen being used, like Black Panther Civil War is really good for this. Kingpin for the debuff Purify is really, really solid as well. Even like Hit Monkey, like any of those high damage champions are going to be fine for this. As I said, standard overseer fight, just get in there with whichever skill champion you're confident with that you're not going to use later on in the fights, and you're going to be fine as well. Now the fourth fight in block 2 is against Franken-Castle. Now Franken-Castle for a lot of people is still a bit of a newer defender, so you might not be super familiar with his abilities yet and his special attacks. He's fairly standard in this fight. There's not too much enhancing his abilities. The only thing with Franken-Castle you got to look out for is he gains his unstoppable ability when coming forward, and he also gains a bit of like incinerate effects as well. So ideally you want some sort of champion that can either handle incinerate or take advantage of incinerate. The only other factor in this fight is you're also not going to gain any buffs or debuffs for the first 30 seconds of the fight. The only thing outside of that though is that doesn't apply to passives. So I brought in Bishop for this fight, and Bishop cooked. If you have a Bishop that's at an okay rank that can manage this fight within 5 minutes, then I think he's a great option for that. You can ramp up to the special 2 very easily and very quickly because of the energy damage that Franken-Castle does as well, and the damage in Bishop is just ridiculous once he gets to a certain amount of prowess buffs also. As I said, it doesn't get impacted by that node of the 30 seconds with no buffs or debuffs. So as long as you can play around his combos a little bit, bait some heavy attacks, watch out for the special attacks, then Bishop is a really good option. Other options that I've seen are like Onslaught and Jean Grey are really solid as well. Obviously with them though, you just have to wait for that 30 seconds to be up, but Bishop completely bypasses that. So you can make this fight a whole lot easier and a whole lot faster. You can get it even done within the 30 seconds before you can even place a debuff. So really solid option there, but as I said, Jean or Onslaught also pretty solid options as well. Now the penultimate fight you're going to be dealing with in block 2 is against Punisher. And this Punisher fight is also fairly standard. The only thing you got to look out for is his block damage, because it is kind of nasty, and especially with the bleed damage he does, you also want to try to have some sort of bleed immune champion, because the block damage, especially if you accidentally push him to a special 2, is going to be really heavy. So you want to make sure that you kind of keep him to special 1, have someone who's bleed immune to be able to take some more blocked hits. And for that reason I brought in Dust. I've got Dust already ascended up to Ascension 2 as well, and ranked up a decent bit also, so she really took out this fight without too much problem. The only thing outside of the block damage is just in Punisher's kit, his standard thing of gaining his indestructible. So if you're not familiar, Punisher also got a buff, so his indestructible is not just at the end of the fight, it's at every 33%. So you've got to manage it at 66%, then 33%, then 1%. You've got to be able to deal a decent bit of damage to get him down there, and then kind of wait while that rolls over. And you also need to kind of stay close to him or be attacking him for that indestructible to reduce in time as well. So that's why you kind of want a champion who can take a decent bit of blocked hits. And Dust has really high block proficiency. She's got really solid damage, and she's also bleed immune, so it means that you're not really going to take too much block damage against Punisher, and that's what makes her a really good option for this fight. I got this fight down without any issue. I tried it a couple of times with Pav because I wanted to get a good Pav run with it. He didn't really work for it, took too much block damage, but does clean it up fine, and Punisher went down without too much trouble. Now the last fight of block 2 you're going to be going up against is Rhino. Now Rhino, since his buff, is a bit of a pain. He's got a lot of unstoppable abilities that just mean that you're going to be taking a bit of block damage or hits depending on if you get clipped by him. He's got very small windows of damage to be able to do against Rhino as well because of all that unstoppable. And so the champion that I brought in for this fight was Hit Monkey. I guess ideally you want to bring in a champion that can counter that unstoppable, or can at least purify the debuffs that Rhino does to be able to break through your block. Ideally bring those champions, but I just wanted to get this fight done. It was the last fight of block 2. I already had Hit Monkey still at a fairly high rank and ascended, and he wasn't used yet, so I threw in Hit Monkey and he got the fight down without too much trouble. Hit Monkey is a really hard hitter, so that meant that in between the gaps of Rhino having his unstoppable, I could do a fair bit of damage in there, but he's definitely not the best option for the fight. So I've seen a lot of people having success with like Kingpin or Chee'ilth as well. They're both really solid for purifying the debuffs and doing decent damage in between. And also Chee'ilth is going to gain that grit ability, so she'd probably be really solid for the fight as well. Other than that, it's just kind of a standard Rhino fight. Honestly, in block 2, the fights aren't really enhanced that much with the nodes. It's kind of just been the standard defenders with things tweaked here and there, but nothing that makes it so much more complicated than the regular defenders. So that was the end of block 2. You can claim all the rewards from that. You got a stack of stuff from block 2, but the main rewards and the main bulk of the stuff and what you need to get done to get that Green Goblin piece is also do block 3. So what's that look like? Now the first fight of block 3 is against Hulkbuster. So Hulkbuster is not a very hard defender. He's got very easy abilities to work around. He's got very easy special attacks to dodge. But the main thing you got to look out for in this fight is his regeneration and his shock damage. So ideally, you want to have a champion that can either manage the regeneration through debuffs, through like the Despair Mastery, or through a heal block. And someone who can also look out for that shock damage is going to be ideal as well. So I've seen a lot of people having success with, you know, like with She-Hulk, She-Hulk Deathless, Lizard, Spider-Woman. A lot of champions are going to be able to manage that with the debuffs. I put all of that information aside though, and I just went with Null because I got Null Zola, rank 5, Ascension 2. He has crazy high challenge rating and he shreds through any champions that have armor ups, and Hulkbuster is one of those champions. And also once Null is in his corruption mode, he's also going to be gaining regeneration as well to kind of mitigate some of that shock damage too. But you really don't need much more utility than what Null has. He can get through this fight really quickly and really easily. And Hulkbuster as a defender just really can't cope with the amount of damage that Null is doing, especially with such a high challenge rating as at rank 5 Ascension 2. It's literally the highest challenge rating you can possibly have in the game right now. So any defender against Null pretty much gets wiped out straight away. Now the next fight in block 3 is the one that was kind of a bit of an issue for me, and that was Arnim Zola. Arnim Zola is just a pain to fight. I just can't stand fighting him. If you've got the right champion to counter him, he's easy. Like if you've got a Carolina Dean, he's easy. I went in instead though with America Chavez. And Chavez is fine with this fight. The reason I picked her really is because she is high rank for me, she's ascended, and also she's got the heavy stun. So that's kind of key for fighting Arnim Zola, because to be able to reduce his charges, you need to be able to heavy attack the defender, and getting openings because of his non-contact attacks, not being able to parry them, you kind of want to find another option to be able to open up for a heavy attack. So that's either through like relics or through some sort of heavy stun ability. And America Chavez has that heavy stun. Now a lot of America Chavez's damage does rely on special attacks as well, which is unfortunate for Zola because he reduces a lot of that damage, but he was still able to go down relatively okay. I think this probably was the hardest fight of both block 2 and 3, I would say. So definitely make sure you've got an option for this. Any champion with the stun heavy ability, so like Carolina Dean, Doctor Strange, America Chavez, you're going to be able to do it. It's just a bit trickier with an in-ideal option. And outside of this, the only nodes that you really got to look out for is obviously the masteries is the main nodes across all of the block, but also just the protection passive. It just means that he's even harder to get down. He's just going to take longer to get down. But you've got the full 5 minutes. As long as you play around the heavy stuns, you're going to be okay. Outside of that protection passive, it's just a normal Zola fight. So you just got to look out for his normal, special attack reduction damage and the non-contact attacks. If you're familiar with fighting Zola, you'll be able to do this fight. It'll just take you a little bit longer than you normally would. Now the next fight in block 3 is against Spider-Punk. So Spider-Punk is a fairly average defender. He's okay for defense. The only thing you really got to look out for with Spider-Punk is the intercept. So Spider-Punk's got the intercept mechanic where if you intercept him, he's going to stun you to be able to attack you, and then that goes on cooldown. So if you intercept, mess up, then you'll be able to intercept again until that timer refreshes. The idea though is to have a champion which is going to be able to counter that evade. Because the Spider-Punk intercept mechanic is an evade based thing, you're able to bring in like a Koye or other evade counters to take this down. I brought in Venom for this fight. So Venom, if you're not familiar, against Spider-Verse heroes, he cuts off their evade as well. So no Spider-Verse heroes can evade against Venom. So that's built into his kit. So it's easy peasy dealing with a Spider-Punk or a Spider-Man, whatever you got. Venom's really solid for it, and this fight was no exception. Outside of that, once the evade is shut down, it is really just a regular Spider-Punk fight. And outside of the evade ability that he's got on intercepts, he really doesn't have much defensive abilities. It's pretty much just try to keep him to special one. The special one's very easy to avoid. Dodge that, go in, attack. Ideally some debuffs or something are going to get him down even quicker. So Venom or a Koye are really solid options for this, but as long as you're familiar with fighting Spider-Punk and you bring in any evade counter, you're going to be fine with him too. Now the next fight in block 3 is against Beta Ray Bill. So Beta Ray Bill, I feel like as a defender you don't really see much. I don't see him a lot in war. He's mainly an attacker and kind of an average attacker at that. Now he doesn't have a whole lot in his kit to be a defender as well. If you're not used to fighting him, his special attacks can catch you out every now and then and can do some block damage on like the special 2, because I don't think you can fully evade that one. But this fight, all you really want to do is find a champion with some buff control, because he is going to gain buffs throughout the fight in his normal kit, but also through the node. So any kind of nullifier champion is going to be ideal for this fight. So like Doctor Strange, Nico Minoru, and I brought in White Tiger. So White Tiger does have a nullify ability. It's kind of small though. You can only nullify like 1 buff at a time. It's nothing crazy like other big nullifying champions, but it is enough to get through this fight. And because of White Tiger's power steal, she does so many special attacks, and those so many special attacks are also dealing with the protection knockdown node as well. So in this fight, he's going to gain a protection passive until you knock him down. If you're using other champions where you need to build up a lot without using heavier special attacks, that might take some time. But for a champion like White Tiger, you're cycling so many special attacks that the passive is never really up for long. And because of the power steal, you're keeping him relatively low in power. You can avoid the special 1 fairly easily. The special 2, as I said, you kind of got to take a bit of block damage for that. But if you keep him the special 1, fairly easy fight. And as I said, like White Tiger, if you've got a champion that's like mine with like a rank 4 Ascension 2, you can pretty much throw them in against anyone and they're going to do fine. Like the Null fight before, any champion he goes up against is pretty much going to be fine because he's such a high challenge rating. So any high challenge rating you've got of a Mystic champion, ideally you can nullify buffs. That's basically all you've got to deal with. And just outside of that, it's just a protection node. So as long as you can knock him down, keep those buffs low, then you're going to to be fine against Beta Ray Bill as well. Now the penultimate fight of this Saga Showcase block is Jonah Jameson. So JJJ is an annoying defender. I don't like fighting him. He's got the miss ability, he's got all sorts of wacky special attacks. I find it really annoying to fight him. I'm still not used to it. He's still fairly new to the game, so I haven't fought him a whole lot out of like odd event quest or maybe a war fight here and there, but that's quite rare as well. Jonah Jameson is not a particularly good champion, so I don't think a lot of people have him ranked up, but for this it means you kind of have to learn the fight. Because he's one of the bigger fights in the Showcase Tower, you kind of need to know what you're looking out for. So Jonah Jameson has a miss ability where he takes a photo of you. He's a bit of a perv, JJJ, but if he triggers this ability, you're just going to get faulted, which means you just got to look out to not miss the champion. You can bring in a miss counter for him, you can bring in any cosmic champion. He's really not going to do too much damage if you do get clipped by him during that miss mode, but obviously that's unideal. The only other thing you really got to deal with is just the unstoppable ability, which is going to trigger on a timer. So if you're close to him, then he's going to gain it. If you're far away, then you're going to gain it. Pretty standard though, we've seen a lot as well. So really any champion you're comfortable fighting with against JJJ is going to be relatively fine. I brought in Spider-Man just because he is such high damage as well, so it meant that I didn't have to be in the fight for too long because, as I said, he's a bit of a pain. Now Spider-Man does have the miss ability as well through his pre-fight abilities too, so that was kind of handy for this fight. Outside of that though, there's a lot of champions that you can find for a miss counter, or you can play around the ability. It doesn't trigger that much in the fight, so it's not like you need a champion to be miss immune the entire time. It's just when he activates that camera ability as well. So outside of that, the nodes really don't enhance him too much. It's just playing around that unstoppable node, and it's kind of going to benefit you as long as you've got the spacing right in the fight as well. So JJJ went down relatively fine. And the final fight of this Saga Showcase Tower, the last fight in both blocks, is Hulkling. Now Hulkling, I'm sure everyone's very familiar with. He's a bit of an annoying defender. He gains a lot of buffs. He does a lot of block damage. He gets indestructible a lot. But outside of that, the nodes really don't improve him that much. He does have like that stun immune cycle node, which like Alliance War bosses have, where he's going to gain stun immune, then he's going to gain slow immune, then he's going to gain heal block immune. Outside of the stun immune phase though, you can parry, you can get in, stun him, whatever you want to do. But outside of that, you really just want any Hulkling counter, so any Mystic champion that's going to either nullify a lot of buffs, ideally do like some debuff damage, just so that can tick while his indestructible is on cooldown, or you're waiting to be able to get the right opportunity to hit him without triggering the indestructible. For this fight, I brought in Pav because Pav is a really solid option. His buffs on Hulkling kind of just ramp up Pav's power even more, so his special 2 damage is even greater. If you're not familiar with Pav, you basically build up his charges onto the defender. You throw special 1s, you throw heavy attacks, you keep him into that trap node, and you build up for a big special 2 with those charges, and those charges count as buffs on the defender. So any buffs that they've got is also going to contribute to the damage. So it means it's going to go down a lot faster with Pav than with other champions. You can use other champions like Nico or Doctor Strange or Kushala to control those buffs as well. It's really just about finding windows between the stun immune and the indestructible to be able to deal some damage. But outside of that, it's kind of a standard Hulkling fight. So if you're familiar with Hulkling, you're going to be relatively okay as well. But that's it guys. That is the full Saga Showcase done. The rewards are claimed, the Green Goblin piece is claimed. I'm keen to see what they do next for the Green Goblin pieces as well, because we have got, what is it, like 4 more pieces to collect before we can get Green Goblin. I'm very keen for this champion. If you haven't done this challenge yet, definitely do it because these pieces are expensive if you don't do it at the time. And the Saga Showcase rewards are worth getting regardless because you get a lot of rank up resources, you get a couple of 7-star crystals, you get a bunch of 6 stones. There's a lot of stuff up for grabs. And so definitely jump into that if you haven't. I would say if you struggle with block 1, if you're a bit scared of block 2 and 3, I wouldn't worry too much. To be honest, I had more trouble in block 1 than I did block 2 and 3 just because of how limiting it was with the tags you needed to use. But block 2 and 3 was kind of easy. And hopefully this video has made it a bit easier for you. Maybe you've learned some tips from this. Maybe you've seen some options out of your champions that line up with mine and you can take those in and win at the game. But that's going to do it guys. That's all I've got to go over today. If you enjoyed this video, if you learned something from it, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, put in the comments what you want to see next time. And apart from that, thanks very much for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.